Breaking tonight, 15 days until America elects its next president. Hillary Clinton is leading in most of the polls, but there's a whole series of new campaign controversies tonight. And the question is, will it be enough to help Donald Trump? Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. A lot has changed since we last joined you. Early voting is now underway in 32 states, as well as Washington, D.C., and we're hearing the total number of ballots cast has already hit more than 6 million. Donald Trump has taken his message to the battleground state of Florida, holding 5 different events today. Think he cares about Florida? Meantime, Hillary Clinton is largely out of sight, holding just one single public event today. Just one. It comes as her campaign and those around her come under increased scrutiny. First, there is a damaging report concerning a top Clinton ally and big money he donated to another campaign. We'll explain. The candidate here just so happened to be married to the man who helped oversee the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. Basically, Governor McAuliffe of Virginia made a big donation to this woman on the right, who's married to a top FBI official who wound up investigating Hillary. We'll have more on that in a moment. Then there's another troubling new video from Project Veritas, which previously exposed Democratic operatives working to harass Donald Trump and provoke his supporters and then play the victim. For days now, the Clinton campaign and party leaders have denied any direct link to the very dirty tricks described in the videos, which have led to 2 people being fired so far. Watch.
I've tried to urge people to take those reports not at face value, and not just with a grain of salt, but maybe even a whole package of salt.
I have no evidence and no knowledge of that. Mr. Kramer stepped aside because he did not want to be the kind of distraction that he is even at this point.
No one who was working for the DNC or the Clinton campaign was doing that. This is, again, an attempt by Donald Trump to distract from the real issues of this campaign.
We don't need any salt. We don't need a grain. We don't need a pound. We don't need a package. The Democrats fired 2 people in those videos for their antics. So if we're supposed to take them with a grain of salt, why are they firing people? But this new footage tonight is raising questions about the denials, about how they had no linkage to the Hillary Clinton camp, the DNC, they had nothing to do with the videos, a bad Democratic operative group, never heard of them. But, you know, the people have been caught on video saying that Clinton's campaign and Hillary Clinton herself were in on an effort to troll Donald Trump in what appears to be not an unrelated case. Using people dressed up as, oh, wait for it, it's very clever, Donald Duck. It's not even good trolling, really. It may sound a little silly, but it could be a violation of federal election law. You see, Hillary's not allowed to coordinate with these outside groups. So she could be in a lot of trouble if that link is real. Listen here.
Good news is the candidate would like to have a mascot following around the duck. Following around the candidate, Trump. But the bad news is she wants it to be Donald Duck. And that's because Sklar is an old Clinton man. And he had gone to somebody who's one of her body people, and she had explained the idea to Hillary, and Hillary just loved it.
She did? It's so lame. What did you love about it? In moments, we'll talk about this with Sheriff David Clark and Richard Fowler, who are here. But we begin with our chief Washington correspondent, James Rosen. James?
Megyn, good evening. For a while this summer, Donald Duck emerged as a prominent figure on the campaign trail. Costumed individuals resembling the Disney character, as captured by Fox News cameras, showed up at Trump rallies, outside his Washington hotel, even harassing Trump's surrogates in Congress, at all points chastising the GOP nominee for ducking the release of his tax returns. Now, in the latest undercover video from the conservative activist group Project Veritas Action, we hear once again from Bob Creamer, the consultant whose contract with the Democratic National Committee was severed after the first Project Veritas video last week, and who can be seen confiding to his hidden camera interlocutor the identity of the purported mastermind behind the Donald Duck's operation.
In the end, it was the candidate, Hillary Clinton, the future president of the United States, who wanted ducks on the ground. But by God, we will get ducks on the ground.
So it's, wow.
Don't read that to
Don't repeat that to anybody. Creamer also alleges that Donna Brazile, Now the interim chair of the DNC intervened at one point to get the Donald Duck's operation moved out of the DNC to a progressive group called Americans United for Change because Brazil purportedly feared trademark trouble from ABC Disney, which owns the Donald Duck character. Yet at one point in this video, an assistant press secretary for the DNC is seen confiding that the organization still had a hand in the Donald Duck's operation.
So like, we're not taking credit for the duck anymore. That's like random ally groups. But it's still something that we're involved in. We just have to be careful about these things and we talk about them and we listen on certain things. But you guys are, I trust that it'll all be fine.
Neither the Clinton campaign nor the DNC responded to our request for comment. However, in response to last week's videos, both the campaign and the committee accused Veritas of selective editing in past videos. So perhaps, Megan, not with a grain of salt, but for the health-conscious among us, a multi-grain of salt.
I feel like you need like a whole tequila rim full of salt, perhaps. Before I let you go, James, forgive me for putting you on the spot, but you heard the person in the video saying, you know, it's important. We have to be careful what we say. It's not we have to be careful about what we do to make sure we comply with the law. It's, you know, we don't want to be perceived as having broken the law. You once told me about a famous Richard Nixon quote to the same effect. Do you remember it sitting here now?
Yes.
Can you tell me what it was?
Yes, this is used in biographies of Richard Nixon. He was quoted once as saying, you must show that you care. And indeed, you must care. Which indicates a slightly back-heavy priorities list there.
I knew you. That's impressive that you got that. I haven't spoken to you about that in about 8 or 9 years. Great to see you, as always, James Rosen.
Likewise. Thank you.
Check out his book, A Torch Kept Lit. Joining us now, David Clark, who's the Milwaukee County Sheriff, and Richard Fowler, Fox News contributor and nationally syndicated radio talk show host. Great to see you both. So, I don't know. You tell me, Richard. It's like, first of all, that trolling sucks. And second of all, that group is not supposed to be coordinating with Hillary on how to aggravate Donald Trump.
Well, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck this time, I got to tell you, I don't think it's a duck. Here's why. There's a couple things here, right? So one, this organization, now this came from the Fox News Channel, this came from ABC, NBC, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, Chicago Tribune, Chicago Sun-Times. Maybe I'd believe it. But this organization, as Mr. Rosen said in the lead into this, was a far-right activist group, right, who's known for doctoring videos. And also, Megan, in 2015, right before Donald Trump launched his campaign, the Trump Foundation, which has its own problems, but they managed to scruffle together just $15,000 to give to this same group. So I find this group to be problematic, which is why I don't take these tapes at face value. There's no question that what's said in these tapes are murky.
Sheriff Clark, the thing is, Donald Trump may have given $15,000 through his charity foundation to Project Veritas, but he didn't make Bob Kramer say these things, and he didn't make the other woman say what she said, and he certainly didn't make the Democrats fire 2 people in the wake of these tapes coming out.
Megan, these Democrat operatives are some scummy, scummy people. And every time we think we've reached the bottom of the sewer with them, we find out we have a long way to go. They are up to their eyeballs in corruption. Their model to win elections is to cheat, lie, and steal, and then if they get caught, to just send their minions out to deny. You look at what's going on here, and we haven't seen the end of it. But really what I find problematic is that the Democrats don't care how they win elections. They just care that they win elections. But then 45 to 47% of the American public that is supporting Mrs. Bill Clinton, they don't seem to care about this at all. If she wins this election, I still don't think that this is over yet. But if she does, we'll spend the next 4 years with investigation after investigation. We still don't know the bottom of this thing, and we're going to learn it as time goes on.
You know, Richard, as we are on the air right now, Politico's Hadas Gold just breaks this story, saying that this same group, Democracy Partners, this is the same group that Mr. Kramer was associated with. The guy like, don't tell anybody I said that. Keep that stuff about Hillary to yourself. Don't tell Fox News in particular. So that group, according to Politico, coordinated also with, get this, going to blow your mind now, Breitbart. Breitbart, which is a conservative, they think it's alt-right, whatever, site, to hurt Marco Rubio. Let me just reading this now. They coordinated during the primaries to cover disruptions of events for candidates such as Marco Rubio. So you've got the groups on the left who dislike Rubio and the groups on the far right who dislike Rubio. And they didn't make Rubio go into robot mode when Chris Christie came after him. But the point is, these are dirty, dirty tricks. And this democracy partners should not have been coordinating with Hillary Clinton. She was not allowed to do that.
Well, there's two points here. One, he says Hillary Clinton, Mr. Kramer does in those videos, but there's no emails, maybe WikiLeaks has it, who knows, that clearly connect Hillary Clinton to this group.
Why would he want to lie about her? He's trying to protect her. He's like, don't tell anybody.
But once again, and I think Sheriff Clark said this last week when we were on together, is that politics is a blood sport. And unfortunately, Megan, thanks to Citizens United and cases like it, there's way too much money in our politics, way too much dark money, and this is the reality.
If they broke the
really,
law,
really
it's
dirty
worse than just
operatives
dirty.
Doing dirty things. This is the problem with this. This is the problem with super PACs, as Charles Krauthammer said last hour. The lines are so murky because the super PAC laws say, me and you are working together today, I can fire you, and then you could go run my super PAC, and we can say there's no coordination. And that's problematic, which is why we have to repeal
Sheriff
it.
Clark, you are a man of the law. And the law says you can't be a 501c4 organization, which it appears this group was, and engage in direct or indirect participation in a political campaign on behalf of a candidate. So if this group was taking its orders and acting them out on behalf of Hillary, as we hear the man say there, then they may be in violation of the law. And now it's not just somebody gets fired, it's somebody gets a visit from someone like you saying, come on down to the station and let's have a chat.
You know, this is interesting because I think there's prima facie evidence that there's some corruption and some collusion going on in this thing. But who do you call on? I mean, normally I'd say, you know, the Justice Department should step in here and take a look, the Federal Election Commission, but those institutions are corrupted at the highest levels.
It's really the tax agencies, right, who would say, you know, you're not getting your tax exempt status anymore. You're a political campaign.
But here's the thing, too, that this is voter intimidation. This is straight up hardcore voter intimidation at some of these Trump events. You look at the one in San Jose, California, where Trump supporters at that event were literally attacked, beaten, bloodied, and injured. That is voter intimidation that if it happened on the other side, if there were the Klan or other supremacist groups intimidated.
That's not.
And let me finish.
Right.
Please let me finish my sentence.
Sheriff.
If the shoe were on the other foot and those things happen, everybody would be outraged, and they rightfully should be outraged. But now that it's the Clintons, of course, there's a different standard for them. They're above the law.
All right, guys, I got to leave it at that, but great to see you both.
Good to see you, Megan.
Also tonight, we're tracking the fallout after we learned that a close Clinton ally had direct ties to the man who wound up heading the FBI's investigation into her email scandal. Judge Andrew Napolitano says the story goes much deeper than we have heard. And here with his take on all of this, Peter Schweitzer, the author of Clinton Cash. Wait till you hear what he's learned. Plus, now an 11th woman alleges inappropriate sexual behavior on the part of Donald Trump. Just ahead, we'll show you how the campaign is handling this one.
You know, this one that came out recently, he grabbed me, and he grabbed me on the arm. Oh, I'm sure she's never been grabbed before.
Fast foodies know the deal.
15 days until the election and new headaches for the Clinton campaign as we learn a central player in the FBI's investigation into her emails also had close ties to a longtime Clinton confidant. He happens to be the Virginia governor, Terry McAuliffe, who was co-chair of President Clinton's re-election campaign and actually ran her first presidential campaign as well. Well, as it turns out, Governor McAuliffe was also the man donating nearly $500,000 to the wife of the FBI official who wound up leading the Clinton email investigation. Judge Andrew Napolitano and Peter Schweitzer of Clinton Cash, of the Government Accountability Institute as well, are here on that. But first we go to Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge. Catherine?
Well, Megan, campaign finance records show that the money accounts for more than a third of the campaign funding for a senior FBI executive's wife. Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe's wife, Dr. Jill McCabe, ran for the Virginia State Senate last year. And while she lost the race, she received $467,000 from McAuliffe's PAC and another $207,000 from Virginia's Democratic Party. McAuliffe personally met with Dr. McCabe and her husband in March 2015 to encourage a run. At that time, Andrew McCabe was the associate FBI director. 3 months after his wife lost, Andrew McCabe was promoted in February to deputy FBI director. In that position, the Bureau says, he took on an oversight role for the first time in the Clinton email case. Critics emphasize these events, first reported by the Wall Street Journal and confirmed by Fox News, coupled with the controversial tarmac meeting between Attorney General Lynch and Bill Clinton in June, 1 week before Hillary Clinton's FBI interview, reflect poorly on the Justice Department and the FBI. Trump hit hard on the allegations today.
It's unbelievable how Hillary Clinton got away with the email lie, the email scam, the email corruption, but now at least we have a pretty good idea.
This FBI ethics manual says employees must avoid even the appearance of a conflict. McCabe did flag his wife's Senate race last year, and the Bureau did review it. Quote, McCabe and FBI lawyers implemented a system of recusal from all FBI investigative matters involving Virginia politics. A process followed for the remainder of her campaign. And during the campaign, he played no role. But a former senior FBI agent told Fox Tonight the Bureau and McCabe did not do nearly enough to properly distance him from oversight conflicts, and their actions are not in keeping with the FBI motto of integrity, Megyn.
Catherine, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, our next guest thinks he knows where this leak came from, and he's predicting we'll see plenty more like it over the next 15 days. Judge Andrew Napolitano is our Fox News senior judicial analyst. So where do you think the leak came from?
There are probably 100 FBI agents who worked on the investigation of Mrs. Clinton. Hardworking men and women in the field who gathered evidence and interviewed witnesses and shipped this data up to senior management like Mr. McCabe, and are furious at the decision not to prosecute her. They were denied the right tools, no grand jury, no subpoenas, no search warrants. They are the ones who are leaking information to undermine the decision not to prosecute, to demonstrate that it was not professionally made, that it was made for political reasons.
But what of the fact that this guy, McCabe, wasn't running the email investigation at the time his wife was running for office and got the donation from McAuliffe?
This is an issue about the appearance of impropriety. Now, the appearance of impropriety is where, to a layperson, it looks like it's fishy. It looks like something smells. How can this guy be the #2 person in the Justice Department when the person providing the money to his wife is himself being investigated by the FBI? Governor Terry
being
McAuliffe,
by
right?
The FBI. This guy's the second in charge at the FBI.
Right, and when he has an interest in that money going to his wife, and when he has an interest in seeing to it that Mrs. Clinton is not indicted, because that disrupts the financial stream to his wife.
It just seems like there's we always learn there's more to the story. You know, Loretta Lynch goes on the airplane and talks with Bill Clinton. What were they talking about? And then just this week it came out, Judge, in the Podesta emails that were leaked through WikiLeaks.
Right.
That, you remember, the New York Times broke the story on March 2nd, 2015, that Hillary Clinton was using a private email to do all of her government business.
Right.
President Obama came out within days and was asked whether he knew. And here's what he said.
Mr. President, when did you first learn that Hillary Clinton used an email system outside the U.S. government for official business while she was Secretary of State?
At the same time, everybody else learned it through news reports.
News reports.
Oh,
so 5 days earlier. The Podesta emails show that's completely untrue.
So here's another theory as to why Mrs. Clinton wasn't prosecuted. Because the first defense witness to be put on the stand would be the former president of the United States, Barack Obama. You knew this because you used it and you authorized it, because here's a couple of hundred emails from you going to her. That statement that he made to Bill Plant was a bald-faced lie, and we now know it, and we have documentary evidence of it.
It can't be true, because the Podesta email that came out 2 days after the New York Times broke the story is asking, should we hold back emails between Hillary and President Obama because of his executive privilege. This was at a time when Podesta was working for President Obama before he went over to work for Hillary. So clearly there were emails to that private email, and Podesta knew it. And several days later, Obama comes out and tries to tell us, I just learned about it.
Do you see how this crowd has degraded the FBI, has degraded the Justice Department, and has degraded the rule of law?
Well, they certainly haven't been fast and loose with the truth. I mean, forthcoming with the truth. They have been fast and loose. Judge, good to see you.
Likewise.
Again, imagine if you tried to pull this nonsense with your boss, and we are their bosses. We also have new reporting tonight on a Justice Department tactic uncovered by my next guest. His new report says that when President Obama's DOJ, the same one we've been discussing, goes after financial institutions, big banks who are messing things up, the settlement they extract does not always go to the victims of the bank's behavior, where it's supposed to go, but instead that money often heads right to left-leaning nonprofits who help get Democrats elected. Joining me now, Peter Schweitzer, the president of the Government Accountability Institute and the author of Clinton Cash. Peter, good to see you. So just give us an example how this would go down.
Well, basically, you had a lot of activity by Wall Street firms, some of it which was certainly criminal in 2008, related to mortgage-backed securities, et cetera. The Department of Justice decides to take legal action against them, and the banks are obviously eager to settle. So they will settle, and part of that settlement will be that some of the funds may go to the victims of the crime you committed, but some of that money is actually going to go to pay restitution in the form of giving that money to nonprofit organizations. And these are nonprofit organizations that are overwhelmingly progressive and serve basically as an adjunct to the Democratic Party.
Well, that's the thing. So it's like, okay, maybe we're going to save the whales. We're going to clean up the oceans. People like that. But that's not what we're talking about.
No, we're not. I mean, to give you one example, one organization that's received millions of dollars is a group in New York called Asian Americans for Equality. I mean, sounds like a great idea, right? The problem is when you look into this organization, which got money from banks via the Department of Justice, this is an organization affiliated with the Communist Workers' Party. Oh. I didn't even know the Communist Workers' Party was around anymore. And in fact, the organization that received this money is sympathetic to the North Korean regime. I mean, how hard is it to find somebody that likes, the dictatorship there?
Why are the feds giving that group money?
It's a great question. I mean, a lot of it is sort of get out the vote, examples, efforts. In some cases, it's designed for voter registration. The problem is that when you look at the literature of these groups, what they mean by get out the vote or voter registration is progressive voters exclusively. And that's the problem.
So can this be stopped? I mean, you would think that money that these banks have to pay would go maybe we could use it towards the national debt. I don't know, something that everyone could agree we need to do.
No, I agree. I mean, look, I think if there are crimes committed by these banks and by these financial institutions, it ought to go to the victims, the people that were victimized.
That's a novel idea.
Other than that, it ought to go to the... Yeah, exactly. Or it ought to go to something like the national debt. But to turn it into political activism, is absurd. And, it's something that I think requires a congressional investigation. And people at DOJ need to be held into account. As Judge Napolitano pointed out, and as you pointed out on your show, oftentimes the Department of Justice is supposed to enforce the laws, not break the laws and create their own rules. And that's clearly what this organization's been doing.
They're not supposed to be a political arm of the White House. That's for sure. Peter, good to see you.
Thank you, Megan.
You get all that? You get the general idea. I know you do. Donald Trump has just wrapped up his 5th and final campaign event of the day in Florida. Florida, I say. We will show you the warning that he sent to the voters there as an 11th woman comes forward to accuse the candidate of sexual misconduct. Plus, breaking news on Obamacare tonight. And Perino and Steyerwalt will be here on how this plays come Election Day.
Fox News headlines 24/7, Channel 115.
Did I mention we're 15 days out from the presidential election? It's only been like 15 months that we've been, actually more. It's been like 2 years, right? And it's been a busy day of campaigning for Donald Trump. 5 events across the battleground state of Florida where he cautioned voters on what he says are the phony polls. For more on that, our chief political correspondent, Carl Cameron, is in Tampa tonight. Carl?
Hi, Megan. He is putting the pedal to the metal and charging hard in Florida. But it's never good when politicians start questioning the polls or criticizing the polls. And Donald Trump did do that today, suggesting that the pollsters are weighting their surveys to help Hillary Clinton and that the media is behind yet another conspiracy designed to do him in. Watch.
What they do is they show these phony polls where they look at Democrats, and it's heavily weighted with Democrats. And then they'll put on a poll where we're not winning, and everybody says, oh, they're not winning. It's a heavily weighted poll with Democrats.
The truth of the matter is, in most polls, it's within the margin of error, which is to say it's statistically insignificant, the difference between the two candidates. Having said that, Trump today seized on the Obama administration's admission that the Affordable Care Act's premiums are going to go up in a big way next year. That he mentioned tonight in Tampa, where he had about 9,000 plus members in the audience, a big, big crowd. And should he be able to turn that into a closing argument, making the point that the Affordable Care Act, President Obama's signature issue in his 8 years, domestically speaking, has in effect backfired and the prices are going to go up, could be exactly the type of opportunity that Trump needs to turn both the polls around and the momentum around in this race in the last 2 weeks. Megan?
Carl, thank you. Well, Donald Trump facing multiple allegations of sexual misconduct in this race as he sees his numbers with women continue to plummet. Mr. Trump using his speech at Gettysburg this weekend to issue a threat to the women.
Every woman lied when they came forward to hurt my campaign. Total fabrication. The events never happened. Never. All of these liars will be sued after the election is over.
That warning did not stop an 11th accuser from coming forward this weekend. Adult film star Jessica Drake claims she received an unwanted kiss and proposition from the real estate mogul at a golf event in 2006.
Later that evening, he invited me to his room. I said I didn't feel right going alone, so 2 other women came with me. When we entered the room, he grabbed each of us tightly in a hug and kissed each one of us without asking permission. He was wearing pajamas. A bodyguard was also present. After that, I received another call from either Donald or a male calling on his behalf, offering me $10,000. I did relate my experiences immediately afterwards to some friends.
Now, Trump's response to those allegations is sparking controversy of its own. Watch.
You know, I don't grab them on the, as they say, on the arm. And once said he grabbed me on the arm. And she's a porn star. Now, this one that came out recently, he grabbed me, and he grabbed me on the arm. Oh, I'm sure she's never been grabbed before.
Oh, boy. Well, the Trump campaign communications advisor, Jason Miller, who we like, was set to appear on the Kelly File tonight. But he canceled not long after the campaign asked us if we would bring this issue up tonight. And we said, maybe. We're going to talk about Trump's speech at Gettysburg, and Trump is the one who brought up suing the women. So we trust Jason will come back another day, and my memory will kick in, and I might actually ask the question later. That's generally how TV works. Joining me now, Julie Roginski, who was brave enough to walk onto the set. And even when it's bad news for her candidate, she does as well. She's a Democratic strategist, Fox News contributor. So this is all people were talking about, this woman. It got even dicier because she is, you have to say adult film actress?
Is that the PC term?
I guess so.
Okay.
Porn star, I think, is, Trump is right about that. And he's coming under fire for saying, I'm sure she's been grabbed before. Give me a break.
Well, the slut shaming, I think, is kind of inappropriate. What she does for a living is what she chooses to do for a living. Being grabbed by somebody is not what I assume she would choose to have happen to her. There's a big difference here, right? On the one hand, this is the way she makes her money. We could be judgmental or not about that, but it's her decision. That's like blaming a woman for getting raped if she's wearing a provocative outfit and people saying, well, she deserves it because she was out there doing provocative things. Those days are over, I think.
Those attacking her, they say she has sex on camera for money.
Okay.
And so they don't believe her that she was offended when he offered her money for sex.
Well, I assume, I'm certainly not speaking for her and I don't have much experience in this department, but I assume she chose and continues to choose to have sex for money, which is very different from having somebody foist themselves on her.
Well, but
she doesn't choose that.
But there are two separate issues there.
Right.
It's the alleged forcible kissing,
right.
And then there's the phone call she says he made offering her $10,000 for sex, which she was offended by. And some said, we don't believe that. We don't believe you were offended.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I can leave that to her to decide. I think the forcible kissing is what the issue is for me. Despite the fact that she chooses to have sex for money on camera, it doesn't mean that she deserves to be forcibly kissed or forcibly assaulted in any way. And again, I want to stress, it's her word against his. He deserves the presumption of innocence. It's the way he talks about these women
that I take issue with, not what may or may not have happened. We don't know what may or may not have happened. I look forward to the depositions in his lawsuit.
No, he's not going to sue anybody.
Of course he's not, because he won't want to be
He's not suing anybody.
Yeah,
Trust me. He's not. And if he is, it's going to be very ugly. He should not do that. By the way, he didn't say he's going to sue them after the election. I assume he means only if he loses. Otherwise, we're going to have really awkward first 100 days.
It's going to be amazing.
The sitting president is coming after a bunch of women. But you tell me, I have to say, Julie, with all the coordination we have seen on the Democratic side, I mean, like, she wants us to believe she is so squeaky clean. Speaking of Disney, she's just like Minnie Mouse over there, like, yeah. But she does some dirty stuff, too. And so it is not impossible that there was some coordination at some level by the Clinton campaign with one or more of these women.
Well, two things. One is she does do maybe dirty stuff, but I don't think it's political dirty tricks that we're talking about.
Hillary?
No, I'm sorry. You're talking Hillary. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Did her campaign coordinate? Because he says all this is a hit job. These women came forward, you know, last month of the election, and he thinks Hillary's behind it.
I think this is very much like Bill Cosby, where you have a torrent of women coming out, and one begets the next and begets the next, and it maybe gives women courage to come out. I have no idea. I doubt that this would need to be coordinated, because I think you have all these unrelated women, some of whom have said they're not voting for Hillary. They don't like Hillary. They're Republicans. You have the People magazine reporter, who I don't think is in the tank for Hillary, is going to put herself through this hell because she's in the tank for Hillary. I think this is very reminiscent to me of Cosby, who also, again, we have to presume is innocent until he's proven guilty. But you see this time and again where you have one woman being brave enough to stand up and say something, and then that begets more and more women coming forward.
We'll continue to follow it, and we will look forward to Jason returning to the Kelly File, where, it's just going to be like a question. It's not going to be terrible. Great to see you.
You're harmless. It's all good.
Right. Come on. It's like Pussycat. Come on. Big news breaking on Obamacare tonight. Steyerwalt and Perino are next on how this plays on Election Day. Oh, look. Oh, they're excited. Oh, what's in his hands? What is? Oh, it's little mini Jasper. Oh, she's converted Steyerwalt. Plus, we'll have the story of the high school publicly condemned for the crime of honoring veterans and police officers. We're not kidding. Stay tuned.
File with Megyn Kelly.
So tomorrow will mark 2 weeks until the election. Every time we come back on camera, we remind you of that. And the pollsters are predicting a victory, you may have heard, for Secretary Clinton. She now has a 5-point, it's an average, lead of all polls in a four-way race. But what if the polls are as the Fawn said? We are hearing from a growing number of political forecasters who think they know what's really going to happen. And Trace Gallagher has that part of the story from the West Coast tonight. Trace?
And, Megyn, what if the political analysts who say a Trump victory now would be a bigger surprise than Brexit were simply looking at the wrong indicators? For example, in a four-way race, including the Green Party and Libertarian candidates, the Investors Business Daily Technometrica Market Intelligence poll has Trump leading Hillary by 2 points. And before you dismiss the IBD-TIPP poll, consider it was dead on in the last 3 presidential elections, and in 2012, the New York Times ranked it the most accurate poll. But experts point out that polling accuracy can often be an oxymoron. On election eve in 2012, Gallup, the inventor of scientific polling, projected Mitt Romney as the winner. Gallup is now out of the business. And on election day in 2004, a full day of exit polling, polling those who just voted, showed John Kerry beating Bush by 3 points. Then there are the not-so-scientific rationales for why Trump might win, as explained by Eric Trump to ABC News. Watch.
I mean, when I'm in these states, and I just came back from North Carolina, and I just came back from Ohio, I mean, you can't drive, George, 500 yards without seeing another Trump sign. You don't see a single Hillary sign.
And if Trump doesn't win November 8th, he's looking at a landslide victory October 31st, where he is reportedly stomping Clinton in Halloween sales. We're told the buck-toothed Trump mask with pursed lips is a huge seller. But then there's the Redskin rule, which has only been wrong once in 84 years. It says if the Redskins win their final home game before the election, the incumbent party retains the White House. Unfortunately for Team Trump, the Skins won that game.
Fascinating. Trace, thank you. Breaking tonight, bad news for Obamacare and for you if you're on it, as the administration confirms double-digit premium hikes that are going to hit millions of potential voters. That comes as polling shows more than 2/3 of Americans think the country's heading in the wrong direction. And the latest campaign surveys indicate that Hillary Clinton's honesty rating is way, way, way underwater. Look at that. They do not think she's honest and trustworthy. 62% say no, and 34% say she is. So why are the experts predicting a Clinton victory on November 8th? If they don't believe her, and they hate Obamacare, and the premiums are going up, and they don't like the direction of the company, these two know. They're the co-hosts of I'll Tell You What, here on Fox at 5 p.m. on Sundays. Chris Direwalt, Dana Perino. Dana is also author of the new book out tomorrow. Ooh. Let me tell you about Jasper, how my best friend became America's dog. And we brought a mini Jasper.
Who spelled Jasper?
And I want to talk about Jasper, but at the end.
Yes.
But I do want to recommend you buy the book, Sincerely, which I have in my house right now, and is beloved already. So Obamacare. Trump, he's made some mistakes. He's also done some good things, but not pummeling Obamacare, this issue is probably one of them.
Yeah, I've never understood that because if you look at 2014, when the Republicans come roaring back to congressional victories in that midterm election, it really was because of Obamacare. And even in 2012, they actually did okay in the congressional races, but in 2014, that's what it was all about. It's not like Obamacare has gotten better for the people who are on it. Now, there are people who love Obamacare, okay, but the people who are...
Sally Cohn.
People or people who didn't have health insurance before, who are getting the subsidies and they are getting taken care of, and they feel like they're in a safer place, they're in good shape. But for people that buy on the individual market,
the 7 or 8
the numbers
million.
go up, your doctors go away. It's not only the premiums, it's the deductibles. And that's cash out of your pocket.
Those are people who had insurance before, got canceled because the government said your plan is too crappy. And people said, I'll decide whether it's crappy. I will be in charge of the crappiness label. And the government said, screw you, it's crappy. It's canceled.
I don't remember that
And
part.
here's a new plan. And then people were like, crappier than it's been before. So will this become, it's 15 days to go. Did I mention it's 15 days to go, Star?
How many days?
Yeah, 15.
Man, we better get ready if we're going to have an old election.
Did that get any traction?
The Mitt Romney's major deficiency in 2012 was not that he was a quarter-billionaire Mormon corporate raider. It was that he didn't prosecute Obama on Obamacare. That's why he lost. If you wanted to talk about one thing that Mitt Romney did wrong, it was that he was not able, because of his track record as the great-grandfather of Obamacare in Massachusetts, to prosecute the president on his biggest weak spot.
But these Republicans who have been dying to repeal and replace Obamacare, right now they control the Senate and the House. And they've got a Republican running for president.
Now.
What do you mean? Why are you saying that?
Because if Donald Trump talks about Obamacare, he's got to talk about with what he is going to replace it. The repeal part, yay, replace it with...
Just left that ambiguous.
Right.
They'll figure it out.
Right. And Hillary Clinton has too, and she just says, well, we'll just fix it here and we'll tack up a couple of pieces.
Yeah, but the Democrats are like single payer, single payer, single payer.
But Donald Trump also could have utilized the good work that Paul Ryan has done on this issue. He's a policy wonk, and he could have...
He doesn't like him because he didn't call him after the second debate to congratulate his performance. Okay. Speaking of amusing things, so Dana loves her dog. Don't you love your dog? It's amazing how much you love your dog.
Americans love their dogs.
You love your dog. And she's written this book about Jasper, which she brought over very generously to my kids. And they love it so much. It is... My son sleeps with it in his bed.
Are you serious?
He looks at it every night before he goes to bed. It is adorable. Swear to you.
Oh, that is so great. Well, if the election has been hard on you or your family and you need a little levity, this was a nice distraction for me over this past year. This actually was born out of a chapter that was cut from the first book. So.
Well, it's well worth the read.
No,
Let me tell you about Jasper. It's very sentimental and sweet. If you own a dog, get it. And even if you don't, we'll be right back.
Get it anyway.
Megan, the football game was a conference showdown between Toms River North and Middletown South. The pregame ceremony that people who express concerns about disparities in the criminal justice system are unwelcome, disloyal, or unpatriotic. A group representing black law enforcement officers also signed the letter, and an ACLU organizer went on to say, quote, entrance to one of the biggest sporting events in the area should not require that someone accepts an atmosphere that suppresses political protest. The deputy chief believes his comments were twisted by the ACLU, saying he respects the rights of everyone, as he said, to stand up for social justice, but also wants respect for the national anthem.
Wow.
Megan.
Trace, thank you. Up next, Jasper and yours truly. Don't tell Basha. Tell you about Jasper. And let me tell you about Jasper. I interviewed him right here on this set on the Kelly File, and it was rough. if you know what I'm saying, right? And he was a nice guy, but his mother was a real, well, you know. No, just kidding. We love Dana, and who is really Jasper's mom. And you can see he's well-read, he's interesting, and he really is America's dog. So go buy this book. Express some love for Jasper and his mama. See you tomorrow.